So after that, I thought I'd treat myself to some testing. And I did, and it was nice. I enjoyed it.
What did you test?
So it was a progressive web form which exposes parts of the form as you go based on what you select. And it needs to do lookups to various things. It was just fun. It was just had lots of moving parts. Nice and fun to test. But also not a huge, undefined, indistinct piece of functionality. Quite contained. So...
And what was the mission of the testing?
What was the mission of the testing? Well, the main mission was, because it was the first time we integrated with a particular service, was to test that. I always define the mission of the testing. Otherwise, what's the point in doing the testing?
Well, it might just be fun.
Well, yeah, but you can have fun and have a mission.
Just ask any astronaut.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh dear. So, yes, I'm looking at a list of my outstanding things.
My outstanding things. Are they things that you haven't done yet? Or?
No, they are things that we haven't done an episode about yet.
Oh, right, okay.
Only one of them has an episode attached, and that's the one for this episode.
Oh, right, okay. That's good. Timely.
That's not a concept we recognise.
No.
Aboard this podcast.
Just enough, just in time. At the last responsible moment.
Slightly beyond the last responsible moment. Excellent. So
we're going to launch into some things.
I thought that was pretty of a half-hearted preamble, to be honest.
I had a great time.
Did you?
Yeah, I told you about my day. And then I got to talk about testing and what the mission of the testing was.
Oh, okay.
That was fantastic.
All right. I see that you had an excellent preamble.
Yeah, absolutely. Best preamble ever.
Well, steady on. I mean, we've had some pretty good preambles. But I suppose, yes, let's do an amble.
Yes.
Which I suppose is what comes after preambles.
Mm-hmm.
So why are they not called ambles? And why is it that nobody ever talks about a post-amble?
I don't know.
So this is more like it.
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing we should be dealing with on What On Off Things.
Not relevant technology topics.
No.
So I've heard people say, actually, no, I haven't actually. That's complete rubbish.
Would you like to make a list of other things that you haven't heard people say?
Haven't heard people say. No one would say I'm going out for an amble, would they? But they might say
sometimes people do.
I think you're more likely to use it in like the post walk.
It's a bit of an affectation, I would say, to describe your upcoming walk as an amble.
Yeah, but after the walk, you might say, "Well, I just ambled around."
Yes, you might describe your walk in that way.
Yeah,
if it wasn't very decisive.
Yeah, but you wouldn't say, this is my post-amble description. Is that I went for an amble. Post-amble is not a phrase that I've heard from my fellow humans.
I'm just asking ChatGPT, why is there no such thing as a post-amble, and why do we not describe the middle of things as ambles? So ChatGPT has a convincing answer, which is not news because ChatGPT always has a convincing answer.
Yeah.
So it says that preamble comes from the Latin preambulus, meaning walking before, ambulare, to walk. It refers to an introduction or preliminary statement, which we know.
Mm-hmm.
Why no post-amble? Instead, we have words like conclusion, epilogue, or afterword to describe things that come after a main text. In theory, post-amble would mean something that walks after, but it simply was never established in common use.
Simply.
So basically, what ChatGPT's answer is that there's no such thing as a post-amble because there isn't any such thing as a post-amble.
Good. But, as long as you state it confidently.
For the middle of something, we already have words like body, main section, or core.
Right.
All right. In short, preamble stuck because it had a clear formal use in legal and literary contexts, whereas post-amble and amble simply never caught on. Other words already filled those roles. Well, that told me ChatGPT.
That will teach you to ask.
I'm sorry for asking such pointless, stupid questions. So bringing my humble questions to the feet of your wisdom. So let's amble.
Let's amble.
And I'm going first.
Is that true?
With this whole thing of recording episodes close to each other in time. In fact, we're recording this one before the last one has even come out. I think one of my interlude topics will be the editing of the video, which hopefully will have come out.
So you're going to create like a time anchor between this episode and that episode.
Well, why would we change the habits of lifetimes?
Do you often create time anchors between things that you, pieces of content that you create? Yes, you do, actually. Sorry.
Shall I ask ChatGPT?
Dear ChatGPT, what is a time anchor and why do I create them all the time?
What is a time anchor and why are they good things to create all the time?
I feel compelled to ask you about your thing and what it is.
Well, my thing, so I've realised that every time I have to say what my thing is, I feel like I have to start by slightly apologising for it, by saying it's weird or offbeat or something. So this one isn't.
Right.
So I have no preambular apology for this one.
But there might be a post-ambular apology once we're done.
Nope.
Nope.
Well, I suppose it depends how it goes. So my thing is presentations and presentation software.
Right.
So earlier in time, because actually it was...
Oh, God. We've started to reference time in just like the cosmic fashion, you know what I mean?
I was going to say earlier this year, but then I realised actually it was late last year.
Right, okay.
I did a couple of talks.
Yeah.
And that brought the whole ideas and thinking about presentations back up to the top of my brain. And one of the things about this, I used to have a massive kind of hobby horse about this because I worked, shall we say, in a large company for a very long time.
One of the largest.
One of the largest for a very long time. And I saw some truly abominable uses of PowerPoint. There's basically no other word that even begins to touch some of the things that I saw done with PowerPoint.
A lot of text on one slide. I find the larger the organisation, the more propensity to add a lot of text on one slide.
Yeah, I saw some terrible things done with PowerPoint.
Yeah.
And I bought a book back in that day, in the mid-2000s, I guess this was, called Presentation Zen. By a gentleman called Gar Reynolds, who kind of upended my thinking about how these things ought to be done. And I started doing presentations that kind of blew the minds of people at my old company. I did one about virtual worlds and Second Life that we were looking into in 2006. And I did it using Keynote because at that time PowerPoint was just, it was almost set up to prevent you from making things that looked nice.
Just remove all the interest and entertainment from it.
Yes, yeah. So Arial.
Yeah.
Which still remains my most hated font.
Yeah.
Well, no.
I always found it interesting that with Keynote and PowerPoint, you could basically make the same presentation, but the Keynote one would just look more beautiful.
Yes. And if you use the features of Keynote, you could make one that looked yet more beautiful.
Yeah.
So Keynote's got things like Magic Move, where if you have two things on two consecutive slides, but you make them bigger or smaller or move them, it will transition the item as it transitions the slides. So things like that, which look really good. And so I got very into this, and I actually wrote a presentation that I did in quite a lot of places called Rethinking the Presentation, which was about this topic.
Very meta.
It tried to ask questions like, do you really need slides to do this talk? Why do you need... Because we kind of walk into it, don't we?
Yeah. And also, I think slides are used as a bit of as a helper as well, aren't they? For the speaker.
Well, so...
Because you've got like two audience, you don't, how shall I say it? Stakeholders, if you like. So,
you do.
So you've got the audience who are consuming it and the speaker who's delivering it, and the slides are something to do with both of them.
So that's interesting. So I think I read in Presentation Zen, but I've known it's been internalized in my head for a very long time, is that people use slides for three things.
Right.
So they use them as a teleprompter. So what am I going to say?
Yeah.
And then they use them as a takeaway. So I'm going to give you a copy of the slides so that you can have them afterwards. And then they use them to reinforce what they're actually saying, the actual talk.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems that these are quite... and actually there's a kind of... and that's just for doing talks. And there's a version of using PowerPoint for status meetings where each slide has a form on it that's filled in with the particular items.
Has a rag status on it.
Yeah. And that sort of thing, I think, has died out because we've got things like Jira.
Yeah.
I hope things like that have died out because we've got things like Jira that let you sort of walk through your project tasks.
We have PowerPoint and Jira.
Hallelujah. So, but if you think of those three things, two of them are really wrong.
Right.
Because you should know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
And if people want something to take away, the slides might not be very good for that, unless they're really a document.
Yeah, yeah.
In which case you shouldn't be projecting them.
Yeah.
And really what you're doing, if you're delivering a talk, then you're delivering a talk. And what you should do is focus on usages of slides that directly reinforce that purpose.
Right.
So not so much reminding you what to say, not so much as a takeaway document, but something that's there in the moment.
Okay.
Anyway, this is my...
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words. So, you know, have a picture.
Yeah. I like slides as an audience member.
So what do you get from them as an audience member?
I'm quite a visual person. So I like talks because there's usually a visual and there's an auditory. And as long as with the visuals I don't have to read too much, I am so happy. But I realise that I have, obviously every audience member has specific like needs, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And people learn in different ways, all those kinds of things.
Yeah. So a talk with like good visuals and obviously the auditory part of it as well is like, that's like my sort of
sweet spot
for learning, basically.
So do you think that most talks have got slides that do that?
Slides that sort of stimulate the sort of meet my sort of visual need as well.
Yeah, I mean, because what you're talking about is actually quite a good use of it.
Yeah.
And of course, I started off by complaining how much bad usage of it I've seen.
Yeah.
I just wondered if your experience of PowerPoint is similar to mine in that you see, you know, you've seen terrible PowerPoint abominations that should just not have happened.
Yeah. So I guess like my slides that engage me are probably like, it will have like a short, snappy title, which is backing up, reinforcing, reminding like what the speaker is talking about, plus an image of some description. It could be a meme, depending on what they're talking about. It could be an animal, you know, whatever the relevant image is for the thing that they're talking about. But if you start then putting bullet points and things like that on it, that's when I start to drift away from it as a engaging medium.
So that's really interesting. And I think I'm probably with you on that.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose what I'm really thinking about that is that a good talk is a good talk. And I'm not sure slides of any description make a bad talk into a good talk.
No, but I see where you're going. I see where you're going with it.
But maybe they can make a good talk into a great talk.
Yeah. I think I would broadly agree with that. Because you can have like say if you had a really engaging speaker who created some less than engaging visuals, it'd still be a good talk. But say if they had, you know, someone hand draw some cartoons for them for the visuals, then it would probably create an amazing talk.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see where you're going, and I would agree.
So for years you could either do, well, first of all, you could only ever do a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
And then Keynote came along because Steve Jobs basically said, I don't want to use PowerPoint, make me a tool. And then they released it.
Yeah.
And so all of the famous heyday of Steve Jobs' Apple keynotes were all done using Keynote. And that was my tool of choice for a long time.
Yeah.
Because for a long time it was conspicuously better than PowerPoint and would look better.
Yeah.
And I think PowerPoint has come a long way in that same time. But I still find myself despising it whenever I have to use it.
Yeah.
And I would be much happier to use Keynote.
So I do have opinions on slides.
I'd be astonished if you didn't, Ash. I'd be.
So I find people can be there's snobbishness around slides and the use of them. So I'd be interested in that book. I don't know what tone that book is delivered in terms of like the use of slides. But some people are like, if you need slides, then you're doing a bad presentation. Or if you need notes, you're doing a bad presentation. You should know what you're talking about. So both of those I totally disagree with, and you should just let people find a way to talk which suits them in terms of getting their message across. If someone has some notes and is reading from them and still looking up and engaging with the audience, then that's their talk. And if it's getting the message across, then great. Why should there be like a set of like not hidden rules, but conventions?
They're not hidden, just rules.
Yeah, exactly. So it reminds me of
don't use Comic Sans.
Yeah.
It's against the rules.
Why not? I see. Now I'm going to use Comic Sans in my next presentation. But it reminds me of what's that club called? Toastmasters.
Oh yes, for learning to speak.
Yeah. And I know someone who went, and every time he ummed or ahed, he was booed by the rest of the Toastmasters, who sounded like the worst set of jerks you could even imagine. So, and I find that presentations, slides, talks bring out like this swirl of like opinions about what good looks like. So I've seen talks without slides which were so terrifyingly bad and went on for so long, like most of my life, that
subjective years.
Yeah, exactly. And I've also seen people talk without slides and hold my attention completely. So there's a lot to it.
Yeah, you're right. But there are things you can do.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm going to start by taking issue. This is what our review suggested that we do. But people should know what they're talking about. And what I mean by that is, don't do a presentation unless you know the thing you're presenting about.
But what happens if you still feel more comfortable having notes about it with you?
Well, that's a different question. So if I decided...
All right, so you're saying something different to what I was saying.
Well, I'm exploring that.
Right, okay.
So if I wouldn't necessarily do a presentation about quantum computing. I don't mind doing a podcast.
Half
a podcast episode about it. But because I just don't have the expertise.
Yeah.
So if I did one about that, it maybe could be the story of me exploring it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be billing it as learn about quantum computing. And then let's say that
that's like topic selection, isn't it? Rather than the presentation or the slides itself.
Well, it's expertise selection.
Yeah.
So the thing is that I think I've seen this sort of illustrated, maybe I've done it, illustrated as a kind of, if you think about your talk and you draw a circle and that's what's in your talk, and then you think about your expertise and what you know about well enough to tell other people about it.
Yeah.
The first circle should be entirely inside the second one.
Yeah, sure.
And if there's already a thin gap between the two, then you might be a bit more nervous. And if there's a large gap, you'd probably be a bit less nervous, because effectively what that suggests is you know a lot of related things that are not part of your talk, but you could go off at that tangent if you needed to.
Mm.
What I think I'm railing against a bit is people not portraying themselves maybe as experts on things who aren't.
Right, okay. I mean, you could still be an expert on something and still be nervous about giving the talk.
Of course,
and want some notes to help you.
And the notes might be, this is your agenda.
Yeah.
And then we're getting into, am I going to read out the notes or am I going to use them to remind me?
Yeah.
And I think a good talk, generally, it would be more the latter than the former, because it's quite
sure.
unengaging if someone's simply just reading out a script.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right, there's a lot in it.
Yeah, yeah. And I just think there's an awful lot of judgment inherently in when everyone watches a talk about what they think a good talk should be and how it should be structured and how you should deliver it. Don't get me wrong, I would love to be the sort of person who could just talk without slides to an audience and hold their attention for, the entire... But you're talking about like...
Sir Ken Robinson.
Yeah, you're talking about people who have like deep expertise and have performed consistently year upon year upon year in front of lots of people.
Yep.
And practice those skills so much and have a brand, a name, whatever it is, that all of those things come together in a performance. Whereas not everybody's like that. So everyone needs other things in order to help them along. So whether that be slides, notes, whatever it is.
And everyone's done their first talk.
Yeah.
And been scared.
Yeah.
Because it is.
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah. It is.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. But I just think...
It shouldn't be terrifying to give talks.
No.
It shouldn't have to be terrifying.
Yeah.
Equally, people should work at it.
Yeah.
People should work at it. You should give the best talk you can.
Yeah. You should try and provide a friendly environment to do that in, as in not Toastmasters.
Well, I think Toastmasters is meant to be a learning environment more than a friendly. I mean, I've never been to it.
No, I've only got anecdotal. I'm sure they're not the most terrible people in the world.
No, but I think that they are, they're upfront about they're trying to help. They're not trying to.
I don't know. There's some kinds of help you can do with, and there's some kinds of help you can do without.
Yeah, and there's a balance between being encouraging and those other things.
Yeah.
This is interesting. This has gone away that I kind of wasn't expecting. The thing is that there are rules of thumb that people should... I'm just trying
See, it's interesting because you're like, you're shoulding. You're saying, a talk should be this or should be that.
No. I'm not saying what the talk should be or shouldn't be. I'm saying that there are...
You are shoulding. You're saying you should have this level of expertise.
No, well, on your topic...
Yeah. That's still a should though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but it's not unreasonable. I mean, even if someone's giving their first talk about something, I wouldn't advise that they gave it about something they don't know anything about.
No, absolutely.
The closest anyone should go to that is, here's my exploration story.
Yeah, like a journey through it. Yeah, fair enough. But it's hard, isn't it, to get past what you think? Well, it's what the anatomy of a good talk and presentation. Well, set of slides.
Yes, because I feel that there are rules of thumb that people would do well to sort of know about and to follow.
Yeah,
and I feel like those exist, and they're probably not all that finger wagging.
Yeah,
in nature,
because of course you have the delivery of those rules of thumb as well, don't you?
Yes, yes. And each one has to finish with and another thing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So they can be either, those rules of thumb can be either valuable guidance delivered in a sort of friendly and compassionate way,
or a damn good thrashing.
Yeah, exactly. But then often I find with talks, presentations, in that type of environment, that line is very can be quite thin.
Yes, it is hard to tell the difference between a damn good thrashing and a bit of encouragement.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think one of the rules of thumb would be find the small circle inside the big circle.
Yeah, sure.
So that you're talking about something that you know well.
Yeah.
Because that's a source of confidence. I do this every day. Yeah. I know all about it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's reasonable.
And another one, the thing is, I can't get around. There's a rule of thumb that says don't write 1 million words on your slide.
Yeah.
Because people will read them and not listen to you.
Yeah.
And God knows I've seen enough of those. What else? Let's tell people who've never really done a presentation before, let's tell them the guidelines that we would suggest.
So, well, I mean, my own personal, what I find engaging is, like I say, imagery, short amounts of text as a header for a slide that is sort of relevant to what the person is talking about. I like a signpost to say, these are the sections. This is what we're going to go through, and this is where we are. I don't mind that personally. I quite like that.
Yep.
And some tools, they have like a little progress bar, don't they, at the bottom?
I love slides. IA Presenters' version of this, which is, at least in some of the themes, you start off with blue slides and they slowly convert to orange.
Yeah.
The background colour slowly changes as you go through from beginning to end. So it's like morning and evening on either end of it. It's very clever.
No, that's very nice. And I would find that like engaging as well.
Yeah.
And it, for my visual brain, it kind of adds it would add a bit of interest, because I'd be like, oh, something's changed.
Yes.
And then, you'd figure it out. So I quite like that. But yeah, signposting is good, like in your slides, I think. But that's like for me. So, I realise I'm in you've called them rules of thumb because they're not going to suit every taste, are they?
No. I'm just thinking, because my rules of thumb would extend for... Yeah, you see, that's interesting, because some of them are my rules of thumb, the ones I have. So I would never use Comic Sans, and I would never suggest that someone used Comic Sans in a presentation.
I think all signs should be in Comic Sans.
Because basically you lose all respect if you use Comic Sans. You basically deserve the damn good... No, that was a joke.
You deserve the encouragement.
Yeah, you deserve all the encouragement in the world. Yeah.
There's a lot of advice out there, though, isn't there, about presentations?
There is.
And
I
tons and tons of it.
I really liked the presentation Zen view of things.
Yeah.
So I recommend that book to anybody.
Yeah. So it kind of resonated with you.
Well, at that time, I mean, it was 20 years ago now.
Yeah, sure.
But at that time, we'd just about getting TED Talks. So TED was just appearing on the horizon. And people were not doing TED Talks using the kind of slides that I saw in my work life. That was a different... And just to be really clear, people who do TED Talks are given loads of coaching and a lot of support with slides and how to...
because there are some visuals at times, aren't there, with TED Talks?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, Sir Ken Robinson's famous one about education, which was, I think, one of the first ones that went up there, and it's probably got the most listens or watches or whatever. But he just stood there and talked about education. Yeah. And it's an amazing talk, and there was no need for slides, and he didn't use any slides.
Yeah.
In fact, I've never seen him use slides.
Yeah, but he's got the presents, right? Yeah,
like Santa Claus.
Christmas presents. Yeah. If you give everyone a present, they're going to listen to you.
But he's obviously a very, he's had many years' experience. Or, bless him, he'd actually died a few years ago, but he had a lot of years of very articulately communicating. Sure. So that was just another thing for him, I guess. Yeah,
but if it's your first go and you put together some slides and you've got your notes, then I can see why someone would want more support.
Do you have first-time speakers at the atelier?
Yeah.
And do you help them? Maybe not you personally, but does the team? Yeah.
If they ask for a review, but I wouldn't say you need to deliver your talk like this with, anything like that. Be like, well, if you want to use sometimes I've been asked, is it okay if I bring my notes? I'm like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's your talk.
Well, whenever I do a talk, I actually write what I'm going to say out in the speaker notes. Yeah. And I do that not because I read it out, because I don't. Mm-hmm. But it means that. But what I find very helpful is knowing. I like changing slides in mid-sentence. Yeah. And what I mean by that is that I start a sentence talking about what was there, and then talk about what's next, and then just when I get to the noun of what's next, I go click and it appears. And if I write it out in longhand like that, it means that I know what that sentence is to change slides. And then that's like a signpost. So I start the slide and then eventually I arrive at the sentence. Yeah. And the meandering about in the middle is actually fine because I just know what I'm going to say to move to the next thing. Yeah. But so I absolutely write loads of notes, and I'd like to be able to see them.
Yeah. And your style changes as well, I think. When I first started doing public speaking,
yes.
over time. So not during the talk.
That might be interesting. I'm going to start sleepily, and then turn into a frenzied, demented.
Yeah, and then I'm going to read from notes, and then I'm going to make it up.
Yeah,
and then I'm going to turn my slides off,
and then I'm going to accidentally go backwards for a while.
Everyone will be like, "This is hard work."
Yes.
Yeah, but your style changes over time. So
It does. Yeah.
I was very much like when I first started doing public speaking, slides were quite heavy, less imagery, more text, and then I went much more imagery with a lot less text or no text.
Yes.
And then I kind of softened a little bit and said, well, if there's certain things that I know that I need to say or something that I want to draw attention to, then a bit of text is okay.
Yeah.
And then also, I do use the notes, but in a similar way, I just kind of have shorthand things in there that I want to cover in the notes. Because usually when you go to a decent conference,
you'll be able to see your laptop.
Yeah, you'll be able to see.
That's the basic.
Yeah.
Conference organising people, if you're listening, they need to be able to look at their laptops while they're presenting.
Yeah. Yeah. Or they'll have the bigger conferences will have like the little screen.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So, but I kind of use it all, a mix of everything, So I think basically you arrive at whatever makes sort of sense to you.
Yes.
And I think based on like your rules of thumb, that sounds like it's something near what those rules of thumb would suggest.
I think so.
And I think maybe one of the key things with presentations, talks, is practice.
Yes, rehearse.
Yeah. So it's like, the more times that you do it and the more rehearsals that you do of a given talk, the more confidence you can build. Because, I found that the rehearsals, especially for the bigger talks that I've done, have just really helped, to bolster the confidence on stage. And then I just think that, like anything in life, you practice at it, you become more effective. So
yeah. I think rehearsing is a huge one.
Yeah, because even if you do get nervous and then there's a bit of a misstep, usually the rehearsal helps you to recover from it quicker. That's not to say you're never going to do a misstep, but I find that even if I do, then because I've rehearsed it and I know what the current slide is and what the next slide is, then it's easier to recover from.
My undoing in presenting is saying something, getting overexcited on slide A and saying something that 2 slides later is then on the slide. I'm like, I've already said that.
Yeah.
One time, for some reason, I can't remember the story of this, but I think it must have been Lee Rathbone asked me to host the Liverpool Tester Gathering on one occasion.
Yeah.
As somebody who's never lived in Liverpool, that was... But there was a lightning talk section. Yeah. Because there always is. And it's like... And they make it very short. They made it very short so that it was not intimidating. If you can stand up for 90 seconds, then tick VG. And I did a 90-second presentation about how to do a lightning talk.
All right.
Because I felt, and I'm just finding it, I just found it. And short to the point without slides. You don't need slides. So what do you have to say? And then what outcomes do you want from the audience? What are the things you absolutely must say? And then you can kind of divide the time up. For the lightning talks, it's like 20 seconds of context, 50 seconds of the main story, and then 20 seconds of a call to action.
Yeah.
I basically went through that really in 90 seconds and sort of said, well, now anyone who's got something to say can use that formula and just be able to do it. And some people did, which was very good.
Nice.
I'm just looking at it was a Keynote presentation. I'm just showing it. It's basically just made of drawings that I did. So the font is truly atrocious.
It's Comic Sans, everyone.
It's even worse than Comic Sans. It's Ian's handwriting.
Ian's handwriting. Based on Comic Sans, same font family.
Same font family. I just want to die now.
The ultimate insult.
Yes.
Your handwriting is Comic Sans. And I thought we were friends.
Well, My rule of thumb there is don't use Comic Sans because people will basically look down on, some percentage of people will look down on you from a great height if you do.
Okay.
And you may not want
And that
to
percentage of people might be quite high.
Yes, and you might not want to have to deal with that. Whereas if you go and look in a school and look on a notice board, almost everything's in Comic Sans. Why are you doing that? Oh my goodness, that was way too long of a thing.
It was a monumental thing. One for the valley, multiple monuments in the valley, I think.
Yes. Well, yes, thank you. I did have a "Are we the baddies" moment somewhere halfway through. Like, hang on a minute. But yes, people should do their best talks.
Yeah.
And they should rehearse. And beyond that, go nuts. Say what you have to say.
Yeah, say what you have to say. And if you need something to help you to do that, then slides, notes, things like that might be great for that.
Yes. Well, thank you for so thoroughly engaging with that thing.
Mm. I've done so much public speaking that it's actually a topic that's quite close to my heart.
Yeah, me too.
Well, and also to sort of try and encourage people to do their first talks in the atelier, that you need to be open-minded with how that happens.
Yeah, and that can be so great in the right environment where people are on your side and they want you to succeed. I think it's a fantastic thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because everybody's got to start somewhere, right?
Yes.
You know, I don't know anyone who's got it right.
Nobody has to start with Comic Sans, though.
They could do that, couldn't they?
Nobody has to do that.
No, but they could if they wanted to. Or even as an experienced...
Why would they want to?
As an experienced speaker who might do his next talk
in Comic Sans. I'll try to ensure I'm not there for that.
Fair.
Oh dear.
Shall we have an interlude?
I think we've earned one after that.
It's probably time for a small interlude break from...
We've nearly been going for an hour. I just think, it'd be so nice one day to be finished and think, it's about an hour. That means I won't have to edit it very much.
To be fair, my thing's a bit... actually, no, it's not. It's not a bright and breezy one. Well, it could be. It's another trip down memory lane.
I don't know why that's even funny, but it is.
It is, of course it is. So may I begin with an interlude thing?
Yes.
You didn't have to turn the music off.
Yes, of course.
Right. Alas, it's about AI. So sorry, everyone. I'm sure you'll be excited to hear about something that's not AI.
There are no other topics.
But that's not why you're here. So I saw an article in The Guardian that basically said Sam Altman of OpenAI said his own product is good.
Oh, AI and billionaires.
Yeah.
Well, what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah. So I was drawn to the complete non-journalism of someone who owns a product saying that his product was good, because that's obviously not news as such.
Well, Gerald Ratner, famously owner of a large jewellery chain, was quite upfront about how his product was crap. And surprisingly, his jewellery chain doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, but that is news when someone says something like that.
Yeah, that is news.
Yeah.
I think the thing that you described there, which is the opposite of that, is not news.
No. So basically, there's like a new version of there's a particular AI model which is on the way. What's it called? It is called.
No more musical cover for you.
No.
You're just going to have to.
You have to bloody well find it.
Find the answer.
Yeah. So it doesn't actually say, I don't think. But anyway, it's designed. It can write extremely good creative writing, according to Sam Altman. As in, he's unlikely to say that the creative writing is terrible. But the other thing that tempted me in was that humans kind of write creatively quite a lot. So to create a model that specifically
Is it GPT 4.5?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Well, I always go back to the lady that we quoted in one of our very early AI episodes who said, I want an AI that will do the cooking and cleaning so I can do creative things.
Yeah, yeah. But what you're going to get is... So, of all these, the billionaires who run these things, solving their non-problems of humans not being able to write creatively, so we need to create a machine to do that. I guess it kind of confirmed one of my biases against AI.
I thought that part of the problem was that AI writes creatively but doesn't tell you.
It doesn't tell you where it got it from.
Or it doesn't tell you that it's writing creatively.
Oh, yeah.
It just does it.
Yeah. And the other angle is you've got these creative writing models, which are obviously, or seemingly obviously, using material that it shouldn't be using, copyrighted material.
Yes, much to people's unhappiness.
Yeah, yes, there's a lot of arguments about that. So there was a few things in that thing.
Well, apparently current government is thinking about just saying that AI companies can use things without having to worry about copyright. We live in a strange country at the moment.
Strange right-wing country with a left-wing government.
Well, you sort of think, are they all that left? I mean, it's a dangerous topic.
Yeah.
I think they're just talking about how they're going to cut benefits or something while refusing to tax wealth.
Yeah. It's almost like you just get the same thing.
Yeah. That's what it's almost
like. Anyway, so the other thing, after I read this, I asked Claude what it knew about the team guide to software testability, and if it could give me a summary of what each chapter was about. And Claude said, aha, I don't know what that's about. I know it exists.
Did it know it exists?
Yes, but it said, I can't tell you what each chapter is because I don't have that information.
So sometimes Claude says, I could tell you, but I'm not going to because it's copyrighted material.
Yeah.
I've had that before.
Yeah. So I just thought, let's give it a go with the book, with my book.
We'll give it a go. Yeah.
Always.
Yes.
The Australians have been, give it a go.
Give it a go.
And I then dropped the truth bomb and said, well, I am Ash Winter, one of the co-authors. And it's just said, nice to meet you. It said, oh, I didn't realise that. How lovely to meet you.
That's kind of nice.
Yeah, it is. It was. And then it asked me some questions about testability.
It hasn't started stalking you or something like that.
No.
Everywhere you go, there it is leaning against a lamppost.
So I know, or to a relative degree know, that Claude hasn't been trained on something regarding the team guide to software testability, a version of that book that it shouldn't know about.
So what about ChatGPT?
I don't know. I didn't ask.
There's
only so much time.
Should we see if ChatGPT 4.5 knows? Are you aware of the book?
The Team Guide to Software Testability.
It is for... Oh, no, yes, there we go. By Ash Winter and Rob Meany.
Ah.
It's part of the Team Guide series from Skelton Thatcher Publications, which also includes team topologies and the Team Guide to Metrics for Business Decisions. Offers practical strategies for embedding testability into software design and development practices. Could you give me a one-line summary for each chapter? I don't know if this is an adequate summary, so I'm just going to give it to you and you can tell me if that is a good summary of the chapters.
That is indeed the chapter headers. It does have a link to where it got it from.
Oh, it went on the web, cheeky so-and-so.
Yeah, so it went to LeanPub.
Oh, well, that's not proving anything, is it?
No.
It's proving that it can browse the web.
Yeah.
What's LeanPub?
Oh, it's a publishing platform. So that must have that text, basically, somewhere in it. I seem to remember writing those small summaries at some point.
It says, this book is 100% complete.
Right.
Oh, it's got an intro to you underneath, which regrettably has your Twitter account attached to it.
Okay. Well,
it says you're a continuously learning tester with a penchant.
Penchant.
for getting involved in all aspects of developing people, not engineering people.
No. Right.
Nice.
So all it did was just go off to the internet and say,
Yeah, that was a bit of a cop-out.
yeah,
really,
so
wasn't
it wasn't what the model knows about. So can you ask again and say, without going off to the internet and finding out?
Maybe.
This isn't my thing.
Without going online.
Yeah. No, that's not it. That's something completely different. That is utter. Well, I recognise some of the words from different testability models, but that's complete nonsense.
Have you written much about epistemic testability?
So that's from James Back's Heuristics of Software Testability, which is referenced in the book. But basically, that is just like not it whatsoever.
Here's a concise one-line summary of each chapter from the Team Guide to Software Testability, as it would be if I'd written it.
Yeah,
is what this really means.
So yeah, that's
looking at this list. I'm grateful that it hadn't written it.
Yeah, that's a superb hallucination.
Oh well, apparently AIs hallucinate. You heard it here first.
Yeah, it was better off going off to the internet.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but I think that proves it knows absolutely nothing about the book.
But a bit of creative writing is not beyond it.
I mean, that's very creative.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my interlude thing.
I'm just going to complain as my interlude thing about having to edit the video from the last episode.
So
which we videoed.
just to be clear, you're going to complain about your own idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Ash has made me video this entire thing, and then he's made me edit it.
So for our international listeners,
at gunpoint.
Right, this is what being British is all about. You have an idea, and then you do it, and then you just complain about it afterwards because it's created extra work for you.
Mostly complaining about it afterwards, to be honest.
Yeah. But if you wanted to capture the essence of Britishness and bottle it, that would be it.
Yeah, not Harrods, as some people might say.
No, absolutely not.
Not Ascot.
No.
Or Wimbledon.
It's having an idea, implementing it, and then complaining about it after.
Yes. And then the weather.
Then the weather, yeah. So if you could make that idea something to do with the weather, even better.
Well, then you get double complaining time.
Double complaining time.
You don't have to stop and then complain about the weather. I don't really know what to say about it, except that it takes a very long time to edit videos, but possibly if you never edit videos normally, it might be that's making it take a long time. But I will say it looks good and sounds good. It's just I have this very slick process for editing audio.
Yeah.
And this is sadly completely unrelated to that. And you've got things like Riverside, where people record remote podcast episodes.
Yeah.
And that has video. And they've got things that AIs that automatically switch between, so that you can see the person that's talking.
Yeah.
And then just before the next person talks, it switches the view. All very easy. And this is, in the immortal words from the film In the Loop, it's difficult, lemon difficult.
I don't know what In the Loop is.
It's a film by Armando Iannucci with the cast of The Thick of It playing slightly different characters apart from
Malcolm Tucker,
who's in both of it. But there's this wonderful scene. It's Tom Honda is the minister in it. And he ends up in this meeting in America where he's somehow committed to both supporting and not supporting the war that's about to happen.
Yeah.
Both sides think he's on their side. And so they say, we would think our British counterpart would have something to say about this. And they all look at him and he said, yes, in Britain we've got a saying for situations like this. And then his face drains of colour and he looks appalled, but he can't stop himself from uttering the words, it's difficult, lemon difficult. which basically, they just perfectly encapsulate that feeling when you realise that what you're about to say is unutterably stupid, but it's too late. The wheels are in motion, and you can't back out now.
You can't say nothing.
You're committed.
Yeah.
Your mouth is going to say the things that you've got queued up waiting to come out, and you just can't stop it. So yes.
So if I ever hear you use the phrase, it's difficult, lemon difficult.
I'm going to send you a clip from YouTube of that moment in it, because there's a bit before where he sends his assistant off to do something, and the assistant is complaining, saying it, and he says, no, it'll be easy peasy lemon squeezy. And he says, no, it won't. It'll be difficult, lemon difficult. Thus planting the phrase into his boss's mind, ready to trot out in front of all these important Americans.
In front of the entire...
And the whole scene is cut with Malcolm Tucker running to get from one end of Washington, D.C. to the other to stop whatever this is from happening. So he's just running, and then it goes back to this nightmare scenario, and then it's back to him running a bit more. It's a very good film. If you like the thick of it.
Which I do.
It's an excellent film. You should watch it. Wow. Anyway, it is difficult, lemon difficult
it is.
To edit a podcast as video when you're really just used to doing it as audio.
Yeah, when you've already got an established process.
Yes, which I suspect I'm going to have to do as well. Possibly. We'll see. So there will be a normal audio version, and then there will be a video. But of course, we're talking about the last episode. So by the time you hear me saying that there will be this and there will be that, it will already have happened. And if it wasn't there, now I'm just embarrassing myself.
Yeah. Just think of time in the cosmic sense, and then the podcast will arrive.
I think you
precisely what it means to.
I think you mean the cosmic nonsense.
May I talk about a thing?
So Ash. Of course.
Thanks.
But what is it?
What is it? Well, so Ian went for a very meaty thing, a girthy thing, a monumental thing.
I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Okay.
That adjective.
So I just went to the Register website and looked for something that interested me and thought that can be my thing. So
it wasn't something to do with HP making you wait 15 minutes before you could talk to them.
That was still on there, but but I thought, well, we probably can't talk about that again.
No.
Even though it's quite interesting.
It is.
So I decided to go with Skype and its imminent retirement.
The demise of Skype.
Yeah. So...
do we need to have a minute's silence in May?
In May. So yeah, I didn't actually... What? Did I actually capture the actual date? No, I don't.
We should aim to be on a Skype call at the time.
That would be pretty amazing,
we could be cut off in our prime.
Yeah. I used to love Skype. I used it all the time.
But what are the chances that nobody will be on it at all at the time when they turn it off? There will be people on it, won't there?
Yeah, definitely. So why did this interest me? So I think Skype was a bit of a pioneer of online communication.
It was. It was the first one really like that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Cue emails from people saying,
well,
actually, by the way, ICQ, something. Do you remember ICQ?
No, I don't actually. No.
I had a 6-digit number on ICQ.
Oh, right.
Me cool.
Yeah, of course. There will be people with using older protocols who will say that it wasn't the first. But I think it was probably one of the first to combine video and chat, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Eventually.
It was very good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you're of a certain age, certainly it was like pretty magical, what it could actually offer. So,
well, it was
and free as well, as I seem to remember.
It was heavily used by podcasters.
Yeah.
Early podcasters used it, and I think a lot of them were you saying the quality was good enough that you could just record it on your computer.
Yeah, which is pretty incredible, really, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think what happened was, in the end, people would record each person would record locally the conversation, their half of the conversation, and then they would edit it from that. But I think for a lot of people, Skype was actually high enough quality to to do that. I think a lot of podcasts were like that.
Yeah. So Skype kind of went on its merry way and got pretty big as well.
Yeah.
But then in 2011, Microsoft said, well, we'd like to buy this and add this to our pantheon of tools. And that was kind of...
Pantheon of tools.
Sorry, that's a turn of phrase.
It really is. It's suggesting that, Office and other Microsoft products are the gods of...
Tooling gods.
The tooling gods.
So Microsoft bought it in 2011 and then didn't seem to do too much with it. I think they bundled it with operating system.
As was their habit.
Yeah, absolutely. So rather than it seemed to cease to become like a place of innovation and became more of something that you add to an operating system. And then this made me laugh as well. They redesigned it, Microsoft, to make it more like Snapchat, which most people didn't like.
Who among us has not dreamed of being able to conduct
to be
our conversations?
And have them disappear immediately.
Well, and in the form of
just to be a fly on the wall in that product discussion when this decision was being made. I think that would be one of the highlights of my life, to be honest.
I think we could start a new podcast where we just had fake product meetings about product decisions that we think are particularly dire.
Yeah.
Like the HP customer support one. We just record how we imagine the meeting to have gone.
Yeah. And it's just like, I know what we should do with this tool, this communication tool that everyone uses for, maintaining long distance communications over a long time. Let's redesign it to look like Snapchat. So,
did it have the ability to make people look like animals?
Probably. A lot of them have that
Snapchat.
now, though, don't they?
I still absolutely adore that video of the lawyer who attended a court hearing and couldn't
turn
on
off
Zoom and couldn't figure out how to turn
they
off
were
the
like,
thing
why are you a cat?
that was making him become a cat.
He was like, I'm not a cat.
Yeah. He felt the need to assure the court that he was not a cat.
Let it be put on the record. I am not a cat.
The cat's face, to be fair, was very expressive.
Yeah. So I guess there's upsides to basing things on Snapchat,
Yeah.
but maybe not for the longevity of Skype.
No, maybe not.
And then over time, Slack, Google Meet, Zoom, all the other options got bigger. And then Microsoft created an internal competitor to Skype, beautifully featured Teams.
Yeah, misnamed.
Yeah, which is now shipped with Windows 11 and not Skype. So after Windows 10, Microsoft were like, we're going to ship Teams with everything now.
And then we're going to start charging you for it.
Yeah. So I guess that was the death knell. And then finally going to turn it off. So my question, what was your early Skype experiences?
I don't really remember. I don't think I particularly had anyone to talk to on Skype at the time when it came out. I thought it was cool. I played with it.
Yeah.
I think I would talk to people on the phone. It's one of those things where timing is everything.
Yeah.
So when Skype came out, I was probably in my 30s or something, and I had a phone. But if I had been in my teens, that would have been brilliant for me.
Yeah.
I think mostly when I ever used it would have been for international dialing.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Because that was megabucks.
Yeah.
And I also seem to remember once getting a PSTN telephone number for my Skype account.
Yeah.
Because I just thought, I had a moment of thinking this is really cool and doing it, and then realising after about a month, I have no use for this. And then discontinuing it.
Right, okay. So we used to use it for weekend testing. So more testing.
You mean testing at the end of the week rather than testing that was not as strong as other testing?
Not weekend testing. Weekend testing.
Yes.
So over the weekend, we would test something.
It's important to clarify.
We would use Skype as the communication mechanism. And it was awesome. We had a great time.
That does sound good.
Yeah, so it was loads of fun. So that's kind of one of my earliest memories, and it was like of Skype. And I was like, that was so cool.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, absolutely brilliant use of Skype, but weekend testing.
Yeah.
Is this what? What?
So testers would get together on the weekend, pick something to test.
Some lucky organisation would find out that their website was a bit pants.
Pick something terrible like LinkedIn. It was just broken. So yeah, we used to do that over Skype.
My entry in 1Password for Skype is so old. It was last edited in 2011. And the website, the URL in the 1Password page for it is HTTP, not even HTTPS. Blimey.
So, on a kind of wider basis, like, why do big companies buy these things and then not really do anything with them? Or a lot of companies seem to say, we'll leave you alone and you can continue to innovate, but then they don't.
Well, that might be like me, though. I mean, I buy things and don't really do anything with them, so I don't think it's confined to big companies. But
I bought a guitar, never played it.
Yeah, exactly. Once you're in a big company, then you're fighting for funding with all the other divisions of the company, and unless you're making megabucks, and if you are making megabucks, then the company's probably taking the megabucks away from you.
Yeah. There's a lot of like big video game developer type companies who've been bought by Microsoft as well. And then Microsoft said initially, we'll leave you alone and you just do what you do. And then I think eventually they didn't leave them alone.
Narrator.
Yeah.
That wasn't how it panned out.
And then they started poking around in there. And then the original culture tends to disappear a little bit, I guess.
And then before you know it, you've got magic time.
Yeah.
You can never resist having a bit of a go at magic time.
So do you think the next generation of online communication type tools, the Slacks, the Zooms, the Google Meets, are they better or are they similar? Or
I'm excited for VR.
No one's talked about VR for a little while on a major basis, you know what I mean?
You mean we haven't on this podcast?
Yeah. Well, I assume like Meta put like X amount of money into the metaverse, and
everybody's putting all the money.
Everyone is putting, yeah, exactly.
But
the trend has changed.
But one of the things about VR that I found very compelling was that. So Meta have a thing called Workspace or something like that. I don't know, they're all called Workspace. Horizon Workrooms or something like that.
Meta looked around what every other tool was called and called it that.
Call it that. Just call it what it is. I did a test of that a few years ago with Dan Hammond, my friend and fellow Ilkley resident. We tested it out and it was really compelling. So even though we were cartoon versions that we'd had to quickly do, did things like tracking where your hands were. So you could point to something that was in your virtual space.
Right, okay.
And other people in the space could see your arm pointing and they would see it pointing to what you'd intended to point to. Mm-hmm. And there's a whole lot of actions of pointing there, which as we're back, not on video. And it had vocal direction as well. So you could hear if someone's talking to your left or your right, and you could reconfigure the room by clicking something. So you could make it into a theatre really easily, or a round table, or a long table. And you could bring your computer into it, which was the final thing. So it could recognise the keyboard of your computer using the cameras in the VR headset. And then it could see you typing. Then you had an agent on your machine that would appear as a virtual screen. Yeah. So you could look down and see your fingers typing, and they'd be virtual fingers on a virtual keyboard, but they matched what was in front of you in reality. From that, you could then project your screen onto a big screen in the room that everyone could see. There was a lot about it that was great, but what the main thing was that convinced me was how viscerally present it felt, like being somewhere with people. Yeah. And actually, if you can come up with a solution for that makes you feel like you're in a place with people, that will always beat, I feel like I'm in my office looking at people in rectangles.
Yeah, and I can turn my camera off. Those types of things. Yeah.
It was very it felt at a very fundamental level like being somewhere with people.
Yeah.
And that means that I think eventually when the technology gets sorted out, because at the moment you have to wear giant headsets that slowly droop forwards and the battery lasts for 12 minutes.
Yeah.
And, all the problems, but they'll solve those
It'll
problems.
make the meetings quicker. We've only got 12 minutes.
Yeah. Never mind a stand-up. I don't mind standing up. I can stand up for hours, but this headset, blimey, I'm going to get this up. So that's what I think when I think about the future of it.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's just utility level now. It's just become what we do.
Yeah.
And I like the little Apple things they do. Like you can, if you do a heart shape with your hands, your Mac or your phone makes hearts come out of it.
Yeah.
And this is the best one, double thumbs down. Now a cloud appears above your head and it rains on you. Not a real cloud, just in this.
I was going to say, that's amazing.
Yeah, it would be. Just on your Apple computer, the double thumbs down will cause you to be under a rain cloud. That's cute and all the rest of it, but it's not transforming the experience in a way that...
No.
In a way that VR can do.
Yeah, so it's like the current sort of class of tools. Skype was the earliest one, and then you've got like Teams, Google Meet, Slack. They're
all desperately trying to expand what they do. I keep having emails from Zoom about Zoom. What did they call it? Could it be Zoom Workspace?
Yeah. So Slack have got I think it's also called Workspace, where you can put documentation and things in.
Well, Slack has got
Canvas,
huddles.
Yeah.
And Canvas is just like a document.
Yeah, yeah.
And
which is also quite a common name for things.
There's also lists in Slack, which is like you can make Kanban boards in it.
Yeah.
Although you can't make people leave Trello for it, apparently.
No. Oh, I bet you can't make people respect work in progress limits either.
You can't make people do that in anything.
It's true. It's absolutely true. So, yeah. Because it's like
Now, Ash, you need to be selling it to them, not making them do it.
I shouldn't use that word.
You will be compelled to.
I command you.
I command you, yes.
I command you to use Skype.
Yeah, well, after May.
After May, we will not be able to.
You can command all you like.
To be fair, I haven't used Skype for a long, long time.
It makes me want to go on my Mac and rename Teams to Skype.
Yeah. And there's also like the phenomenon that Teams seems like a demonstrably worse product than Skype.
Well,
but that seems to have won the internal battle.
Well, of course it has, because Microsoft just said, here, you can have it for free with Office 365.
Yeah.
And so all the financial directors said, right, we're having that. And everyone's like, we want Slack or we want something else.
Yeah.
And it's like, nope.
Comes for free.
It's free.
Yeah.
You must have it.
Exactly. Can any of these other products compete on price? No.
Yes. That's the only thing they can't compete on.
Well, I suppose if you need to have a differentiator and your product is terrible, then it's got to be price.
The thing is that Teams was being sold as a team workspace and Zoom was just a video calling software.
Yeah.
But basically, Teams is only used as a video calling software. Hardly anybody uses it as a team workspace because it's so bad at it.
Yeah.
And they made an architectural decision early on to back end it onto SharePoint. And then suddenly you couldn't do things. So in Slack, if you want a private channel, you just make one. But you can't have them in Teams, or you couldn't for years. Yeah. Because they'd have to implement it in SharePoint first. Otherwise, all your private channels files would go into a SharePoint that everybody would be able to access.
Again, to be a fly on the wall.
I
feel like I'm missing out on all these. I mean, I go to a lot of terrible product type meetings, but I feel like I've missed out on some of the best.
That's the name of our new podcast is, what's the phrase you just said?
Terrible product type meetings.
Yes, terrible product type meetings podcast.
Don't, because
this will finally make our fortunes.
Yeah,
we will get rich from podcasting that.
You just have to press the rant button and I would go. And then all you would need to do is look engaged. No, don't press it.
Yes.
So all you need to do is look engaged and say, every now and then. And I'd be like, another thing and another thing. See, no, I'm not going to do it.
This is you'd have to have a little disclaimer at the beginning. This is a fictional representation of the meeting where they decided to make HP customers wait on the phone for 15 minutes, or Microsoft Teams, or the new AI feature in something or other.
So yeah, we get to say goodbye to Skype.
Goodbye, Skype.
A whole era has ended, or blended into other eras.
Skype, I hardly knew ye.
Because even though I have fond memories of Skype and weekend testing, I haven't used it for many years. So it's the classic, can you complain of the demise of something that you had no patronage of? Because that's why it's met its
demise.
Do
you mean this is the internet, Ash? You can complain about things that are completely unreasonable.
Well, yeah, true. But I try not to. Well, I try and keep that to specified rants.
I might mock you a bit if you did.
So that was my thing.
Well, Ash, a once great tool.
From the pantheon of tools. No?
I just find the collective noun pantheon for tools to be worrying in some way.
Okay, I'll stop saying
it.
Figma is obviously in the pantheon of tools as well.
I mean, a lot of the pantheons were full of tools.
A pantheon full of tools.
I think, for example, Ares was a bit of a tool in the Roman pantheon.
Yeah. Greek.
Oh, no, that was Mars, was the Roman one, wasn't it? They were all tools.
They're all tools. So that was it? The thing?
Thank you for that thing, Ash.
Thing.
It's fitting to commemorate the passing of these things. It's like the extreme right-hand end of the hype cycle, isn't it?
Yeah. So I guess that's kind of one of the other interesting things as well, that, tools, they don't stay around forever. Forever.
Yeah. In episode 350 of What a Lot of Things, we'll be going on about the demise of ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Well, this was a fail because we've gone for 1 hour and 38 minutes.
I blame your thing. Just so you know.
I also blame my thing.
But yeah, I blame your thing. And by proxy, you.
Yes. It's right to blame me. And now I must be punished. That was a joke. Having to edit it is punishment enough.
You'll be encouraged.
I'll be encouraged.
Yeah.
Given a damn good encouragement.
Too right. So how do you get in touch with us here at What a Lot of Things? It's not that.
Well, you could email us on our email address of ianandash@whatalotofthings.com.
That's the one.
Or you could comment on the episode on Blue Sky, and those comments will appear to us on the episode pages on our website.
Please do.
And you can join our LinkedIn group.
Of course.
Where we religiously post
I don't know what you mean.
Ash's hot takes on each episode as it comes out.
See, the thing is, the takes are so hot that you now
evaporate.
I think, Ian, you're allowed to also put a hot take up there.
No. I'm like, I've done the show notes. I've done the editing. I've posted it.
I have no more hot takes to give.
All my takes are now lukewarm at best.
All my takes have been given and all my givens have been taken.
Yes. You need to pause that for a bit.
So yeah.
It's like that song by that chap about I've no more hot takes to give. My hot takes have run away.
It's time to press the button. I think the other button. The stop recording button, specifically.